It was a quiet afternoon in Florida. The late sunlight fell gently across the porch of Helen's little house. A 74-year-old woman who had spent 35 years working as a nurse. She had lived alone since her husband passed away from heart disease. Her home was always tidy. The rocking chair sat neatly by the window. A vase of dried tulips from last spring still rested on the table. And an old white landline phone, something few people still used, lay silently on the worn wooden desk. That afternoon, the phone rang. A young man's warm, professional voice came through. "Hello, Mrs. Helen. I'm calling from the Medicare office. There's a small issue with your account that needs verification. If you could just confirm your social security number, we'll get it fixed right away." Helen hesitated for a moment. The way he spoke sounded official, polite, confident, with the faint sound of keyboard clicks in the background. She had worked in healthcare. She knew what bureaucratic voices sounded like, and this one seemed perfectly normal. "Oh, all right. Let me read it to you," she said softly. Within minutes, she had given away all her personal details. Her SSN, date of birth, home address, and even her bank information. She had no idea that, on the other end of the line, there was no Medicare office. Only a shabby apartment where a group of young men were laughing each time they closed a deal. 3 days later, Helen's account was emptied. Over $12,000 gone. Her savings from 5 long years meant for medical bills and roof repairs. When she arrived at the bank, it was already too late. That story isn't rare. Every year in America, more than 92,000 seniors are scammed, with losses exceeding $3.4 billion, according to the FBI's 2024 report. And the real number may be far higher, because many victims stay silent. They feel ashamed, afraid of being called naive, or simply don't want their children to know they've been deceived. But the worst loss isn't the money, it's trust. Helen later said that after the scam, she began to distrust everyone. A stranger knocked on her door, she locked it. Lonely, often. When people are lonely, they tend to trust faster, because they crave connection, attention, and a sense of belonging. Scammers understand this, and they never rush. They text every day, ask about your health, share small details, slowly weaving themselves into their victims' trust until hearts and wallets are open. Helen wasn't alone. There was Michael, 82, a retired engineer who fell for a romance scam. A young woman online said she lived in California, but she was actually someone sitting behind a screen halfway across the world. Over 7 months, he sent more than $50,000 to help his girlfriend come to America. There was Dorothy, 79, a victim of a tech support scam. When her computer flashed a warning, "Your computer is infected," she called the number on the screen and lost $600 in fake repair fees. And Tom, 70, who got a call saying his grandson had been in a car accident and needed bail money immediately. In a panic, he wired $5,000, not realizing the police officer on the line was reading from a script. Each story is another crack in the foundation of trust among the very people who once built this society. They are the ones who worked all their lives, raised children, contributed to their communities, and in the end were betrayed by what they believed in most: humanity. And the cruelest truth is this: the kinder you are, the easier you are to fool. Because scammers don't look for the ignorant. They look for the good, those willing to help, those who believe in honesty, those who want to do the right thing. When you say, "I believe in people," they hear, "I can use this person." But the biggest question remains: how can those who've survived wars, losses, and grief fall victim to someone hiding behind a screen? The answer lies in something deeply human: the heart. Older adults may forget faster, react slower, but they feel deeper than ever. After 60, loneliness isn't just an emotion, it's physical pain. Studies show that chronic loneliness increases the risk of stroke by 29%, dementia by 40%, and weakens the immune system as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In that loneliness, a single kind voice, a simple "good morning," can make an aging heart believe that someone still remembers them. And when that belief is shattered, the loss isn't financial, it's spiritual. It's the kind of fall that steals sleep, appetite, and faith in the world. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you too have received a strange call, a message starting with, "Hello, ma'am," or an email promising a refund or a prize. And maybe, for a brief moment, you believed, because that voice sounded so warm, so familiar. Don't blame yourself. You're not naive. You're human. You still have a kind heart. Right now, there may be someone near you, a parent, a neighbor, a friend, who could be the next target. A simple share from you could spare them a heartbreak. And if you'd like to stay connected with New Golden Day, where we share real stories filled with warmth, lessons, and inspiration for life after 60, please subscribe to the channel. Every subscription is more than just a click. It's a quiet reminder that no one is truly alone. When Helen told her story to the police, she said one sentence that made the young officer stand silently for a long time. "I wasn't careless. I just felt happy that someone spoke kindly to me." That simple line holds the key to understanding why older adults, people who have survived decades of challenges, can still be brought down by scammers so easily. After 60, many people's lives begin to shrink. Their children are busy, friends pass away one by one, and the once lively home filled with laughter is now quiet. Just the ticking of a clock and the drone of a TV playing the same shows over and over. Days go by without a single phone call, message, or request for help. And in those moments, all it takes is one stranger who seems to care. Whether through a phone call, a social media message, or an email, to make them feel like they still matter to someone. In that fragile moment, the door of trust opens, and the wrong person steps in. American psychologist Dr. Robert Cialdini, author of Influence, once said, "People don't make decisions based on logic, but on emotions wrapped in logic." And for older adults, that's even truer. When someone calls them grandma, grandpa, or speaks with warmth and respect, their hearts soften. Some have lived alone for so long that hearing someone say their name can bring tears to their eyes. According to the National Institute on Aging, the human brain in later life processes positive emotional signals more strongly than negative ones. In other words, seniors are more likely to believe someone who says something kind than doubt someone who might be lying. That's why scammers never start with threats. They start with care. They say things like, "I'm calling to help you avoid having your account locked," or "We just want to make sure you don't lose your insurance benefits." When you hear the word help, your brain naturally lowers its defenses. Here's something few people realize. Older adults fear being abandoned more than losing money. So when someone calls regularly, remembers their birthday, or sends a message saying, "Sleep well, ma'am," they feel connected. And when that same person happens to mention that they're struggling or in trouble, many seniors willingly send money, not out of foolishness, but out of kindness. Scammers don't have to knock on your door. They only have to knock on your heart. They don't force belief. They make you want to believe, because that belief makes you feel alive again. Another reason seniors fall victim so easily is their fear of being left behind in the digital world. Emails, banking apps, smartphones, everything changes so fast. So when a message pops up saying, "Your account is at risk, click to verify," They assume it's real, afraid of losing something they don't fully understand. That fear drives them to follow instructions quickly, and that's when the scammers strike. The painful truth is that shame keeps many victims silent. They fear their children will find out. They fear being laughed at or called too old and too naive. So they keep quiet, burying their shock and humiliation inside. According to AARP statistics, only about 1 in 25 seniors who are scammed report it to the police. Most suffer in silence, and that silence gives criminals more room to grow. Scammers don't just exploit trust, they exploit memory. They talk about war, hometowns, grandchildren, subjects that instantly stir empathy in older hearts. They bring up nostalgia, and when the heart opens, reason often steps aside. Helen once said, "He told me his mother was a nurse just like me. We talked about the job, about patients, about the hard cases. I forgot that the person who was listening so intently only wanted my personal information." That longing for connection blinds many seniors to the danger. It's not gullibility. It's the simple human desire to be seen, heard, and trusted once more. There's a strange irony in modern life. The more technology we create to connect us, the lonelier we become, especially for those born before 1960, a generation raised on handwritten letters, face-to-face talks, and family dinners. Now, with everything turned into text messages, video calls, and QR codes, many feel left behind. And scammers, usually younger, tech-savvy people, step into that empty space, pretending to be the last kind soul left. But here's what we must remember. Older adults are not weak victims. They are simply people with kind hearts living in a time that has forgotten how to be kind. If the world gave them just a little more genuine care, a little more warmth, perhaps they wouldn't need to find comfort in false voices designed to deceive. So, if you're watching this video, call your parents, your grandparents, or your elderly neighbor today. Just 5 minutes. One simple call could save them from a scam, simply because they'll know that someone truly cares. And don't forget to subscribe to New Golden Day, where we share stories that protect, inspire, and heal the hearts of older adults everywhere. One June morning, Helen received another email. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you've won a $50,000 senior lottery bonus." She opened it, her heart racing. It had a bank logo, an official-looking signature, and even a customer service number. All she had to do was verify her account to claim the prize. What if it's real? She thought. But this time, Helen was lucky. She had learned her lesson. She called her neighbor, a retired financial advisor, who simply said, "No one gives you something for nothing, Helen. They're always trying to take a little more." Helen avoided the trap, but thousands of others weren't so fortunate. Today's scammers aren't the crude con artists of the past. They don't knock on doors, send handwritten letters, or use tricks you can spot a mile away. They hide behind polished images, realistic voices, and advanced technology, making it hard even for younger people to tell what's real and what's fake. Imagine this. One morning, you receive a call, and it sounds exactly like your grandson. "Grandma, it's me. I've been in an accident. They won't let me talk long. Can you please send bail money?" The voice cracks. You hear sirens in the background. What would you do? That's a voice cloning scam, where artificial intelligence is used to mimic a loved one's voice. A few seconds of audio from a TikTok clip or voicemail can now recreate a voice with 98% accuracy. According to the FTC's 2025 report, tech-related scams targeting people over 60 have increased by 62% in just 2 years. The most frightening part? These schemes don't just target wallets, they target emotions. Each tactic is carefully crafted to provoke fear, sympathy, or compassion. Scam type number 1. The romance scam. Fake love, real loss. It starts with a sweet message from a stranger on Facebook. A compliment. You have such a lovely smile. You look much younger than your age. Then come the conversations. First days, then weeks, then months. They share stories of childhood, work, and family until they seem like the soulmate destiny finally sent. Then one day comes the request. Their identities used to create fake medical records, problems that haunt them for years. Scam type number 3. The tech support scam, the false savior. You wake up to see your computer screen flashing. Your computer is infected. Call Microsoft support now. You call. A friendly American voice answers, asking you to install remote support software. Minutes later, every photo, password, and bank detail on your computer is compromised. A 72-year-old retired teacher said, "I thought they were helping me. I didn't realize they were helping themselves to my money." Scam type number 4. The gift card scam, the deadly gift. An email from the IRS or Social Security claims you owe taxes and must pay immediately to avoid suspension. The payment method? Apple or Google gift cards. It sounds absurd, yet more than 9,000 cases like this happen every year. Seniors fall for it out of panic, fear of authority, and because they have no one to ask for advice. Scam type number 5. The charity scam, when kindness becomes a weapon. After a hurricane, a war, or a tragedy, fake charities flood inboxes and social media. They use heartbreaking images of children and emotional pleas to exploit compassion. And the people who have suffered the most, those who know pain, are often the first to open their wallets. But perhaps the cruelest scam of all is the one that steals family love. Scammers know that a grandparent's love is unconditional. They only have to say, "Grandma, I'm in trouble," and every ounce of logic disappears. According to the Elder Justice Initiative, 60% of victims of phone scams genuinely believed they were helping a real relative, not because they were unintelligent, but because love always speaks louder than suspicion. In the age of AI, truth and falsehood blur more than ever. Voices can be cloned, photos can be fabricated, news can be faked. But there is one thing no scammer can replicate: genuine human connection and awareness. Today, Helen still keeps her old landline phone, but she's taped a small note beside it. "If it's truly urgent, loved ones will know how to find me. If they don't, they're not really loved ones." A simple reminder, but one that holds a powerful lesson. Sharing stories like this doesn't just spread information. It can save someone you care about from losing their money, their trust, or their smile. And if this is your first time here on New Golden Day, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our weekly stories. Heartfelt, honest, and deeply human. Because sometimes, just one story can be enough to change a life. In a small town in Oregon, there lived a 76-year-old man named James Holton. He used to be a carpenter, a quiet, humble man who had spent his life building things with his hands and his heart. He and his wife, Margaret, had been married for more than 50 years, surviving bitter winters and cherishing countless springs filled with cherry blossoms blooming outside their porch. But 3 years ago, Margaret passed away after a sudden stroke. Since then, the house that had once echoed with laughter held only the sound of wind and the ticking of a clock. Every morning, James still made 2 cups of coffee, one for himself, one for her, and sat there, watching hers grow cold. He never said it out loud, but everyone could see he was lonely. They say loneliness doesn't kill you, but it makes the heart grow old faster than time ever could. One April morning, James received a Facebook message from a woman he'd never met. Her name was Clara, 62 years old, a widow from Arizona who said she shared his love for woodworking. She sent photos of handmade wooden ornaments and, by coincidence or design, They looked exactly like the kind James made. They began to talk every day. At first, it was simple greetings. "Good morning. Have you had breakfast yet?" Then, the conversations grew deeper, about aging, about sleepless nights, about missing the people who had gone before them. She told him about her late husband, a Navy veteran, and said, "You remind me of him, James." For a man of few words, James felt his heart warming again. Each night, he opened Facebook just to wait for Clara's messages. When she called him "my sunshine," he laughed like a young boy. 2 months later, Clara said she wanted to visit him. But first, she explained, she needed to resolve a small bank issue. Her account was locked because of an international transfer. She said, "If you could help me with $2,000, I'll pay you back as soon as I arrive." James hesitated, but then she sent a photo of a plane ticket, a copy of her passport, and even a message from a so-called bank employee. So he believed her. He transferred the money. A week passed. Then 2. No Clara. No messages. Her Facebook profile vanished. James later said quietly, "When I realized neighbors would pity him." For months, he hardly left the house. Until one afternoon, he heard a program on the radio about Senior Fraud Awareness Day. The host shared stories just like his and invited victims to speak up. That night, James wrote an email. He said he wanted to tell his story, not to complain, but to make sure no one else would repeat his mistake. A week later, he was invited to speak at a community meeting at the local church. He stood at the podium, his hands trembling, but his voice steady. "I was scammed, not because I'm foolish, but because I still believe people can be good. I lost money, yes, but what hurt most was facing myself. The feeling of being betrayed in an old age already so fragile. But I'm done feeling ashamed. I'm speaking up, so no one else has to suffer in silence like I did." The entire room rose to applaud. An elderly woman hugged him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I went through the same thing. Thank you for being brave enough to say it out loud." Since that day, James has volunteered with his town's senior cyber awareness program. Every week, he visits the community center, sitting with other seniors, showing them how to spot fake emails and suspicious calls. He says, "I don't want to be just a victim. I want to turn my pain into experience." And slowly, the old house that had been filled with silence began to fill with laughter again. New friends, shared stories, mutual learning, people his age helping one another stay safe. A journalist once asked him, "Do you still believe in love?" James smiled. "True love never disappears. Only those who pretend to love vanish once they get what they want." Maybe being scammed actually made me love life more, because I've learned that love needs wisdom too. If Helen in Florida represented the loss of trust, then James in Oregon symbolized rebirth. 2 people, 2 stories, revealing one universal truth. No one is ever too old to be deceived. And no one is ever too late to begin again. Perhaps in life, we are all hurt by trust at some point. But for older adults, every wound cuts deeper, because it's not only money they lose, but their sense of safety. And only connection, empathy, and understanding can mend those cracks. James's story shows that when we dare to speak out, shame fades and trust is rekindled. If you feel touched by stories like this, please share this video to help protect others. And don't forget to subscribe to New Golden Day, where we share real stories that keep the hearts of older adults forever warm. James once said something that made many older adults nod in silent agreement. "They didn't take my money with a knife. They took it with kind words." That single line captures the essence of every scam. Scammers don't need to break into your home. They just need to step inside your trust. And what makes them succeed isn't that they're smarter, but that their victims were never prepared to recognize evil when it came wearing a friendly smile. So how can you protect yourself when everything, from voices to photos to emails, can now be faked? Trust what feels off, not what sounds familiar. Many seniors say they were fooled simply because the voice on the phone sounded just like my grandson. But in the age of AI, just 3 seconds of recorded voice is enough for criminals to create a nearly perfect clone. If someone calls saying they're in trouble and need money urgently, pause. Don't send money. Don't respond immediately. Call back using the person's regular number or contact another relative to confirm. Scammers rely on panic. They know that when you're scared, you stop thinking. Calmness, on the other hand, is your strongest armor. Remember, no one gives you something for nothing. A timeless rule of life. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't true. Email saying, "You've won a prize. You're eligible for a bonus insurance payout." Or, "You've been selected for a senior benefit program." These are bait. They prey on hope, a deeply human emotion. There's nothing wrong with hoping for good news, but hope must walk hand in hand with caution. Never give your personal details, credit card number, or social security information over the phone or email, unless you initiated the contact first. Be wary of secret requests. When someone says, "Don't tell anyone, this is just between us," that's your cue to raise every red flag. Scammers know your silence is their best ally. They fear you'll talk because once you share what's happening, their scheme collapses. Remember this. People who truly love you never ask you to keep secrets from those who care about you. Always reverse check anyone claiming to be from the government. If you get a call from the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, or your bank, do 2 simple things. 1. Full name and employee ID number. 2. That's why criminals love them. Ironically, technology can also protect you. Turn on spam call blocking on your phone. Enable 2-step verification for your email and bank accounts. Register your number with the Do Not Call registry to reduce suspicious marketing calls. And most importantly, verify before you trust. Before clicking any link, type the organization's official name directly into Google instead of using the link someone sent you. Talk to your family. Don't hide your fears. Many seniors get scammed because they don't want to bother their children. But children are never bothered by questions, only heartbroken when they find out too late that their parents were hurt and they could have helped. If you get a strange message, email, or phone call that feels wrong, speak up. Don't let shame keep you silent. A woman from Texas once shared, "After I was scammed, I hid it from my son for 6 months. Every time he called, I pretended everything was fine. But the truth was, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I'd lost faith in myself. When I finally told him, he didn't scold me. He just hugged me and said, 'I wish you had told me sooner.'" That story brought tears to everyone's eyes, because silence can be even more dangerous than the scammer. That's why we need to talk about this, openly, often, and without judgment. The more people know, the fewer people will be harmed. When communities stay alert together, scammers lose their hiding places. Sometimes, just one small message, "Hey, be careful with those calls," can save someone you love from losing thousands of dollars. And if you want more stories like this, real, heartfelt, and meaningful lessons for life after 60, subscribe now to New Golden Day. Because we're not just protecting money, we're protecting trust, memories, and the hearts of an entire generation. There's something people rarely say out loud, but everyone who's been through it understands. Being scammed doesn't just take your money, it takes your sense of worth. It makes you feel foolish, unreliable, undeserving of trust. And for older adults, that feeling cuts even deeper, because it touches something sacred, dignity. The very dignity they've spent a lifetime building. Helen once said, "I couldn't look in the mirror for weeks. I saw a foolish woman staring back at me. But then one day, I realized I wasn't stupid. I was just someone who still believed the world could be kind. That sentence captures both the pain and the path to healing for millions of seniors who've been victims of scams. Because the truth is, they have nothing to be ashamed of. The shame doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the people who preyed on kindness for profit. Step 1. Acknowledge and forgive yourself. When seniors are scammed, they usually respond in one of two ways: self-blame or silence. Both are dangerous. Blame deepens the wound. Silence lets the criminals keep going. The first thing to do isn't to chase the money. It's to face the truth with compassion. Say to yourself, I was hurt, but I am still me, the same person who's lived honestly, loved deeply, and believed in goodness. Forgiving yourself is the first key that unlocks the way out of the darkness. Step 2. Speak up and let others lift you. There's an old saying, a pain shared is a pain cut in half. When you tell your story, you don't just help yourself, you help others who are suffering quietly. Talk to your children, your neighbors, your church group, or your local community center. Let them know this can happen to anyone. Across the US, there are support programs called senior support circles. Groups where older adults meet each week to talk, share coffee, laugh, and learn how to recognize new scams. In those rooms, no one judges. There's only understanding and empathy. Step 3. Learn to trust again, but with open eyes. After recovering, Helen said, I lost a part of my trust, but I don't want to live the rest of my life in suspicion. Trusting connected. When your heart is full, false voices have nowhere to hide. Step 5. Help others to heal yourself. James understood this deeply. After being scammed, he didn't hide. He used his experience to guide others. He said, every time I tell my story, I feel like I'm giving a little piece of justice back to the world. Each senior who speaks up closes one more door on criminals. Each story shared becomes a lesson. Each person who stands up becomes a victory for hope. Sharing is strength. Step 6. Know that you are not alone. Many victims think they're the only ones, but the truth is the opposite. According to the FBI's Elder Fraud Report 2024, there were over 90,000 official reports, and experts believe that represents only about 10% of real cases. That means millions of others have gone through the same pain. Think about that. If millions share your story, you are far from alone. Step 7. Don't let fear define the rest of your life. An 80-year-old woman once told her support group, after I was scammed, I deleted all my social media, stopped talking to people, and ignored every phone call for 6 months. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was really just building my own prison. Fear is natural, but letting fear run your life only gives the scammers another victory. Instead, slowly open your heart again. Connect, but carefully. Trust, but wisely. And above all, keep living. Because as Helen said at the end of her interview, if those scammers took my money and also made me stop believing in people, then they win twice. I won't let that happen. That line, simple, strong, and full of truth, is a reminder for us all. As summer fades, Helen still sits by the window of her small house in Florida, where each evening the golden sunset paints a warm glow across the frame. On the table, the white telephone still lies quietly. No longer frightening, just still. This time, there's a small note taped beside it, written in her own hand. No one can take my kindness from me, unless I let them. Somewhere far away in Oregon, James sits in his woodshop, his rough, calloused hands carefully smoothing the edges of a photo frame. Inside it is a picture of him and his friends from the Senior Cyber Awareness Group, people who were once scammed, once broken by betrayal, but now smile brightly, hand in hand. He says softly, maybe those people took our money, But what they can never take is the strength that comes from kindness. 2 people, 2 stories, 2 scars, and 2 living proofs of one simple, profound truth. When we dare to speak out, when we choose love over fear, we reclaim control over our lives. The stories of Helen and James aren't really about scams. They're about being human, about how we get hurt, how we fall, and most importantly, how we rise again. Scammers may use technology, words, or even fake love to steal money, but they can never touch the soul of someone who still knows how to love. A geriatric psychologist once said, "Old age is a time when people live through their memories, and scammers are those who know how to touch those memories to manipulate emotions." But what he didn't say is this: memories don't just carry pain, they carry strength. They remind older adults of what truly matters: honesty, kindness, and humanity. Things that can't be faked, bought, or stolen. When you've lived 6 or 7 decades, you've met both the good and the bad. You've seen enough joy and loss to know one timeless truth: no one can make you small, unless you believe they're bigger than you. Aging doesn't make you weaker, it makes you quieter. And in that quiet, you see who's genuine and who's not. And sometimes, it takes one painful lesson to realize you're far stronger than you ever imagined. Helen says that after the scam, she started teaching life skills classes for older women at her church. She shows them how to read disappointment. Know this: you are not alone. Sometimes being deceived isn't the end of a story. It's life's way of reminding you that your heart still knows how to love, how to believe, how to feel alive. And as long as that heart still beats, you still have the chance to place your trust in the right people. Don't fear trusting others. Fear stopping trust altogether. Because when you stop believing in goodness, the world around you starts to darken. A fake voice may hurt you, but a real voice from a good person can heal you. Maybe that voice belongs to your neighbor, maybe to a grandchild far away, or maybe, just maybe, it's someone you meet on a quiet morning, here, on this channel, where you can still find warmth, connection, and the understanding you deserve. There are far more good people than bad ones in this world. Scammers are the minority. Their voices are loud only because we stay silent. It's time we speak louder, clearer, and stronger. With knowledge, with courage, and with compassion. Share this video. It might help someone you love rebuild their trust. And don't forget to subscribe to New Golden Day, so together we can tell not just stories of pain, but new chapters. Stories of forgiveness, resilience, and the strength to live better every day. Because after all, kindness is never a weakness. It's the one power that allows us to live fully, no matter how much time passes, no matter how much the world changes.